Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV. I'm back, or was I ever gone? I probably was gone. I was just not available, and my fiance took care of the structure deck, tried to get it out of the door. This is our first time on camera solo, running in this hot seat of mine. Apparently it ruins everyone's personality, including my own, because apparently I'm never like this. This is fake Tom Box, exposed. I like dressing up, wearing wigs and stuff like that. And why am I talking about this? I don't know. And my fiance did a pretty good job, I think. And she was rewarded with the chocolate that she requested. If you guys were wondering if I actually got her the chocolates, yes I did. I handmade some stuff. I don't go for the thoughtless box of chocolates. I don't go for, packaged diabetes. You gotta make your own diabetes. Okay, that was completely wrong, and well, luckily she can't hear this, and maybe she won't even watch this video. Long story short, let's go into our triple structure deck profile. Much like Japanese Valentine's Day, if you receive chocolates this way, you gotta return it threefolds, and that's why we're doing this deck profile. It's a very budget option. Interestingly enough, it's actually really strong even as triple structure deck. So I think it's a great way to kick off the year with a structure deck like this. Like Shaddoll Wendi is just so good, and we're gonna talk about it right now, so make sure you guys hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and we're gonna break into this particular deck profile. Okay, funny enough, the one thing that is really lacking in this particular structure deck would be link monsters. You can't really perform links, and even with Shaddoll Construct, it doesn't even give you the correct arrows to really play it out, so you're going to have to use the effects to kind of move things around. But outside of that, you'll be only playing with one fusion at a time, and this is a going second variant. It will be a lot better once we don't have to maintain our zones with link monsters for fusions. That would be in the upcoming Master Rule, but yeah, this one, funny enough, comes with a full-on side deck as well, so that's a very interesting feature that most of these triple structure deck do not come with. Starting off with the monster lineup, we have Triple Wendi. Wendi is the strongest card of this structure deck. In fact, this is probably going to give Shaddoll a lot of synergy, because it summons, regardless of what you do, you flip it, you summon a Shaddoll from the deck. You send it to the graveyard, you get a Shaddoll from the deck. It's just your free tether monster. It's a level 3. It's pretty cool. It's a psychic. Unfortunately, I guess you can E-Telly it out of the deck and then just fuse it into the grave, then get another monster. I think that's pretty cool. That's why Shaddoll Wendi is a 3 of, and sending it to the grave automatically fetches you another monster. So it almost feels tour guide-esque at that level. I'm playing 2 copies of Shaddoll Ariel. Mainly for utility. I want to use this as more of a disruption against my opponent than anything, where if I use one of my quick play fusion spells, I would choose to use this just to banish something out of my opponent's graveyard. And that's the utility of this card. And if I do summon this card off of Wendi and put it face down, I want to make sure that I've already something banished through one of my trap cards, or whatever banish method I've used. And then I want to use the new trap card to banish them, then flip this one face up to immediately get the effect off the revive a card. That's what I think this would be used for in my case. I am playing 2 Shaddoll or Cad Shaddoll Chaos. I hate the way that this name is spelled, but it is what it is. It's Cad Shaddoll Chaos, and this is your light Shaddoll, which gives you easy access to Construct. For Construct, that's really all it is for. But because this is a triple structure deck profile, I have to run 2 copies of this, because I want to send the stuff in my hand to the graveyard by a card effect to get their effects off. Otherwise, you don't really have enough other types of support to really get the engine going, and you want to throw stuff into the graveyard. And it's actually fine. If you throw stuff like Wendi into the graveyard, it's going to boost you. If you throw Squamata into the graveyard, you can throw Wendi, which leads to additional monsters. So everything you do could lead to additional monsters, but this one has a bit of a heavier cost. Of course, if you summon this one, or rather flip this one, you get to summon a Shaddoll monster from your hand or face up or face down defense position. That's kind of neat, but this is also BLS fodder. As for my Shaddoll monsters, I am playing triple Hedgehog because I want to add cards to my hand. Drawing cards isn't as necessary because this is triple structure deck. There isn't exactly a lot of utility, not a lot of power cards that you can draw. Maybe you can draw into a super poly. That'd be nice, but I think adding monsters and maintaining your hand size will keep you alive better and give you more extension to the combo. This is a going second variant, so this initial main deck here is for going second, so let's just keep that in mind, which is why having additional monsters isn't as painful. 2 is Falco, because Falco is just a free body, and you could cut this one down. Remember, you can also revive your constructs and stuff like that, but it does go face down, and keeping it face up is interesting. I'll talk about some of the interaction if you do play a mirror match. I'll play triple Squamata because sending stuff into the graveyard right now is actually much better. We're not talking about like sending a dragon to pop a card. We're talking about sending Wendi to give you a free monster. So in other words, this also leads to more free monsters. So it's more or less a consistency card to give you access to. You can throw a dragon if you want to pop a card. You want to draw a card, you can go for beast. But if you want to summon any of your monsters, then you can go for the Wendi. Or if you want to banish some stuff from your opponent, then this is like the shortcut. This is like the Foolish Burial for the Shaddoll deck anyway, and your utility cards are now going to proc when they are sent to the graveyard, so you have just not just popping cards, but you have every form of access through Squamata, and it's an 18 beat stick and also pops cards if you do get that flip effect, so it's decent. One Shaddoll Dragon for popping spells and traps. Double beast because drawing cards is nice, and it's also pretty big. And if you use Wendi, you can use this card more or less as a draw engine because you just directly summon it straight from the deck, which is more or less what you're going to do with this version of Shaddoll Beast. Typically, you will get the ability to summon your dudes face down. More utility sends stuff into the graveyard face to the graveyard. You have Mathematician. Because Mathematician is Mathematician, you just get that free ditch. And Wendi is, of course, your ideal target if you want summons. You have all your access. The only thing you can't really send is Shaddoll Beast. Another card to send. This one doesn't get to send Wendi because Wendi is not a dark. This is Armageddon Knight, which is classic, where you can send Squamata, which can send Wendi. In other words, you can still set up the same type of boards. Now for a little utility, we have Trick Clown, just in case you have the option to go ahead and just play Shaddoll Fusion while your opponent controls a monster summoned up from the extra deck, so you can send this to make your construct. Free body, everything's just free about it. Again, notice that most of these cards, they just summon from the graveyard, and you're really trying to manipulate your graveyard resources. If you had a proper extra deck, I see that this deck can still become very scary. One BLS, I know it's at 3, you could play more if you want to, but I personally don't want to play more than 1, because if you open with too many BLSs, this deck doesn't exactly run a lot of lights. Sure, you can put Construct to put the light in, but I think, based off of my experience with old Shaddoll, loading up the graveyard isn't that easy right now. If you can use like K Shaddoll or Chaos as your fodder, but Chaos is like one of the weaker ones that does not synergize as well. Alright, into the spell lineup, triple Allure of Darkness, because you have a lot of banishing, and Ariel can revive some stuff that you banish, so that's okay. But remember, you're not running a full deck of darks. You have different attributes in here, which makes this card a little bit risky. Triple Shaddoll Fusion, you're going second deck. You want to be able to activate this card as soon as possible. Yeah, that's about it. So you can send stuff from the deck instead of just from your hand. If your opponent flips their monster face down, then remember that the ruling is that that monster, although it is recognized as a special summoned monster, it is not recognized as a special summoned monster from the extra deck because it's no longer public knowledge. So, yeah, keep that in mind. One El Shaddoll Fusion just for interruption during your opponent's turn, and of course we have to play triple Super Poly. There's no way you can go second without playing triple Super Poly. One nice thing about Shaddolls is that you have access to every single attribute, so it doesn't matter which attribute they play, you can still find some way to break their board. You can crack their monsters out and completely just rip pieces apart. Like Tri-Gate Wizard. Tri-Gate Wizard is an Earth, so you can definitely just eat that monster, go into what's his name, Shekinaga. Or if you want to hit Appaloosa, you can go to Wendigo, but Wendigo kind of sucks, so I don't know if you really want to go that direction. But it does turn off Appaloosa plus their Tri-Gate Wizard if you're playing against Spirals. Foolish Burial, because, again, everything about this deck is about sending cards into the graveyard, but mainly you want to focus on sending out monsters, because most of these other cards, Shaddoll Core, I'll play one just for utility's sake, that I can send this card to the graveyard if I already set up my graveyard, and I can send it through, I believe, Construct to help me fetch back one of my Shaddoll spells. This is the cool card I'm playing 3 of. It is very fast. I didn't realize that it doesn't have a bit of a wait clause on this one. This is Rest Shaddoll Incarnation. Of course, you can, even as a set back row, it's pretty decent because you can target one of your Shaddolls in your graveyard, special summon it face up or face down defense, so that's already decent. But when it hits the graveyard, you can just banish this card from your graveyard and then activate one of these, which is flip your dude face down or flip one of your dudes face up in defense position. Because this is a trap card in the graveyard, you will be able to activate it right away and chain it to some of your opponent's cards. It's like a Spiral Rescue. Spiral Rescue is like able to just activate during your opponent's turn to do something like that. This one is very similar, so you can get your Shaddoll effects. Even though they're flip monsters, typically you have to wait for yourself to flip it. It's fine because you can use this card effect. If you have a dragon, you can bounce a card. If you have Schematic, pop a card. You have Wendi, you can summon a card. It just means that you have access to your effects, your flip effects rather, during your opponent's turn. That's why I think this card is really powerful. And if it comes to a variant, Foolish Burial Goods could toss this into the graveyard to give you disruptions, and I think having disruption is a good thing overall for any deck. And finally, one Pot of Avarice. You might have noticed that you could potentially banish a lot of cards out of your graveyard, and that means that Pot of Avarice doesn't do very much, but that's not true. If you're playing that many fusions in your extra deck, then you can put your fusions back to draw 2 cards, and that's what it's mainly used for. And that's kind of the main deck. I'll go into like a bit of side deck as well, but next we'll go into our extra deck. I don't have these cards sleeved because there's not. I don't have sleeves for them, but two Shaddoll Construct, because Shaddoll Construct is your only link monster. It does provide you with a little bit of fusion summoning, but the problem with this particular card, aside from it being like lightning, it can revive itself, which is good, so it does open up your zones. The problem with this particular card is that it requires 2 flip monsters, and if your extra monster zone is already being used, you'll never be able to summon it in a triple structure deck format. It's just unfortunate. But yeah, you have to play 2 of these just to potential for opening zones. 1 Shaddoll Annoyatilis. I think this was used for stopping Necros, but outside of stopping Necros, it doesn't really have much options here because it only prevents your opponent from special summoning monsters from the hand or graveyard using spells or trap effects. So that's mainly for rituals, and yeah, that's not everything. 1 Wendigo just for attribute coverage, so you can use this to break Appaloosa, and 1 Fire, which it would be Greista. I guess I can put him closer here. Yeah, Greista, just for the fire axis. I believe he gets to negate special summons, much like, I think it's more like a Horn of the Heaven type, where it's more like a Solemn Judgment type of negation on special summon effects while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand. Negate the summon, and if you do, send the monster or the Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. And it's like once per turn. And most of these monsters, when they're sent to the graveyard, you get to retrieve spell cards. And double Shekinah, because Shekinah can negate the effects of monsters that are special summoned. So that's cool. Triple Construct, because Construct's Construct. Upon summoning Construct, you get to send a Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. I think that is just amazing because you can send Wendi, you can send Ariel to kind of just rip your opponent's extra deck apart, or not extra deck, but their graveyard, so that they can't really use their graveyard as much. That's cool. And this is alternate art. The alternate art, I don't know, I think the old art looks a little better. This one just looks, it's very anime-esque. It's like if Shaddoll had an anime intro, this is what it would look like. This is like that zoom in of Shaddoll Construct. Next, Windows. This window is also kind of, I don't know. I think this one actually looks a little bit better than compared to the old window. And finally, the last 3 cards, because we're playing a full Shaddoll extra deck. We have new El Shaddoll Al Capone, or sorry, dyslexic guys. It's App Cologne. It's APK. So this thing is running off of an Android. And it's got a fish. I don't get the fish. I guess it's Ariel with a fish. I don't know who the fish is, but it provides you with utility. I love the utility of this card. This one is different from the other ones because when this one is sent to the graveyard, instead of just fetching something back from the graveyard, you get to add a Shaddoll card from your deck, and you also get to discard 1 card. The discard 1 card will be considered as sent to the graveyard as a card effect, so you will activate some of the Shaddoll stuff that you might have stuck in your hand. So this is a pretty decent card, and this also negates a card permanently. Like, it negates a card upon its fusion summon. So that's the rundown of the extra deck. And I guess we can talk about the side deck. Side deck is kind of neat because this one has enough stuff for a side deck. First of all, there's triple twin twister. I'm just gonna run through this. Triple unending nightmare to kind of break some of these boards. And if you want to break more boards, there's triple lava golem. Like, these are all decent side deck cards that you would see. If you want to switch to going first, like your opponent might make you go first, then consider running like the Lost Wind, and even consider using Necrofusion. Necrofusion is actually very nice because you can summon out Winda during your opponent's turn using material in your graveyard. Once you have like your board a little bit more set up, then you can use Necrofusion to set up the Winda against your opponent. But you have to like banish fusion material list from your graveyard face down. So, and it can't attack. It doesn't matter, it can't attack because it's not even on your turn. Your fusion during your opponent's turn, and it's easier to summon out Winda when stuff's in the graveyard anyway, and you don't have to pay mine to you at the cost or anything. It's pretty decent, I would say, especially when your opponent like just committed 2 monsters. Then you can just drop a Winda on them. They feel awkward because they thought they get full combo access, but one face down card just completely shut them out. So there's that. And that's the rundown. Are there any like crazy combos in this deck? I don't think there's crazy combos right now. Like, most of it feels like you're just waiting to disrupt your opponent, and there really isn't too many things to pay mind to. Like, try to get your normal summon through the Mathematician, try to dump Wendi as much as you can into the graveyard. The flip or the other one, it doesn't really matter. Just don't let this thing die by battle. Like, if you get a flip on it when it gets attacked, that's cool. Can't get Ash because it's damage step, so that's okay. But you can even set some of these cards. You can set Ariel, you can set Wendi, you can set these cards, and then set a Super Poly, and then use that as a Shaddoll name, and use your opponent's monster for the attribute, and then you still have a good play because you're still sent to the graveyard by a card effect. Therefore, new chain, trigger, summon another monster onto the field, and even though you discarded a card, your opponent also lost the card, so it evens out in the end. So that is the triple structure deck rundown. What do you guys think about this deck? Do you think it's going to be really big, or do you think you need to play Invoked Engine in there just so that you can have even stronger fusions? I mean, you have a ton of different attributes. Like, both of these decks, like they play based off of a name and then an attribute. Like, this is a going second deck, obviously. Do you think it's going to be enough for Shaddolls with especially Wendi? Is this card splashable enough to go into the other decks? Let me know down in the comment section. And that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. Do you think you can play a budget variant? I think this is very much playable. You can use this to break a lot of boards thanks to the access of Super Poly. So that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one, and cheers. Thank you to those of you guys who supported the video with my fiance. And yeah, that's all I got for this video, and maybe I'll cross-dress again some other time in the future.